Stories are the way that human beings have transmitted information for millennia. Stories are the way that we connect with people and we engage with people.
He's been a comedian, a Microsoft exec, and now a CEO of New Zealand Story, shaping how our nation is seen around the world. He's written best-selling books, he's sat on major boards, and he has co-founded projects that saved Kiwi businesses during COVID. But perhaps the most powerful of all is David Downs has survived cancer, terminal diagnosis of cancer, and he turned that into a mission of resilience, humor, and hope. In this episode, we unpack how he lived more lives than most, what New Zealanders can teach the world, and how to find the silver lining even in the darkest moments.
I was diagnosed with cancer out of the blue, literally on my way to work, popped into the doctor because I wasn't feeling that great. And lo and behold, it turns out I have cancer. I had to stop work pretty much that day. Obviously quite a big thing to happen to you.
Can you teach us something about resilience?
Yeah. You know that you're going to get through it and you're going to bounce back. And as I say, there's this concept of hedonic adaptation, which is the idea that we do bounce back.
I would say you were definitely a different person before and after.
More intense version, I reckon.
You have an incredible background. You used to be a comedian and now you're in storytelling and business. How did these three come together? Being funny and being with business owners and telling stories. How does that fit?
Yeah, you missed a whole division into being a technology person as well. So it's like a whole other bit too.
Actually, technology, because I know that you work for some other tech companies.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, they actually are all very related to each other in a funny way. So yeah, I left school and university early and became a stand-up comedian. And that was in the 90s, so early 90s, long time ago. Worked in TV and radio a lot, award-winning radio. Just saying.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
But then then I decided I needed to get a proper job in my mid-20s. My wife and I decided we wanted to get married and have kids and all that sort of stuff. So getting a proper job was quite important.
Necessary.
To be able to do that. And then I went into the business world and just loved it. And there is a real connection. You know, when I was in the comedy world, I actually helped set up a comedy club. So it was a hospitality business. It was a pretty tough gig to actually run a business in hospo, particularly in the mid-90s. But we got through that pretty well. Yeah, and so fast forward a bit, going through working in technology, working for big multinationals, running my own businesses for a while.
Oh, have you? 20s. So you're an entrepreneur as well.
Yeah.
I love it.
Always very quite entrepreneurial, actually.
Yeah.
In fact, in another parallel universe, I would be running my own business now. But
why not? Why aren't you doing it?
Well, because I've ended up just loving the roles I've been in. Like I was in Microsoft for many, many years.
Yeah.
Just felt like that was a great role. Living in Asia for a while, that was awesome learning opportunities. Came back to New Zealand and joined the government, which was not on my to-do list, but it was cool fun because when you work in government for a while, you realise you can have big system impact and learn lots about lots of different industries, connect with heaps of different businesses. So that I've always just loved that kind of learning part of jobs. So that's kind of why. So I've just been kind of embedded in that for a few years, and it's given me lots of stimulation, opportunities, interesting things to do, including the new role, which not new. I've been in it now 5 years, but this latest role is as CEO of the New Zealand Story. So that's a government agency, and that sort of brings a lot of those things together. To your point about how did you get from one to the other?
Yeah.
Early years in sort of film, TV, radio, comedy. And then business, and then you bring those things together and it's actually, okay, how do you use storytelling to promote business and to create value for business?
And did you ever expect that you're going to end up doing this?
No. But no, I didn't expect I was going to end up doing anything I've ever done. I don't know.
Really?
I often...
Are you one of those people who have plans and plan ahead?
I have a rough plan. It probably as I'm getting older, my plan's getting a little bit more like, I better actually put those things on the list. You're sort of a bit more conscious of the time you have available. When you're in your 20s and early 30s, just do anything. It sounds like fun. Let's do that. But now I'm going, okay, I'm 54. Probably want to do, another couple of roles, if not another career, because I have multiple careers.
Wow.
And I have to be a bit more intentional now.
You haven't had many careers so far. You've only had technology, comedy, and business.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and our public service, I suppose.
And public service.
Yeah. So that's 4. And cancer, but we'll probably come back to that one. I consider that a career. Not one I would have chosen either, but sometimes you don't get to choose.
How do you find yourself impacting the world at this moment?
Oh, that's a good question. I hope I impact the world positively. I mean, I'm lucky that in my job we have, I think, quite a lot of impact. So our role is the national kind of organisation that tells New Zealand's story to the world. So we're helping the rest of the world understand that there's a lot to know about New Zealand, not just that we have beautiful mountains and rivers and lakes.
Or sheep.
But there's other things as well. So and so that's good, and that creates value. The idea is that creates value for businesses, for cultural organisations, for technology companies, for whoever. That New Zealand is seen as a place where amazing things comes from. So that's kind of one set of value I suppose I have. And then in the rest of my world outside of that, I do other things as well. I'm the chair of an organisation called the Ice House, which is a charity or a charitable organisation that basically helps businesses be better at running themselves and helps business leaders and owners in particular to know how to really operate high performing businesses. So that's very impactful, and where hundreds of companies a year go through our programs and hopefully has an impact. And then in the charitable space, I'm on a few boards of different charities and do a lot in the world of kind of healthcare in particular, because that's where I've got my own personal story that led me to that. Yeah,
and you're quite the advocate to in health, promoting the world of what's it called, the
CAR T-cell therapy.
Yeah, and also like I think clinical trials as well.
Clinical trials, yeah. So basically the quick version of my story was I got diagnosed with cancer about 7 or 8 years ago now, and that was just out of the blue, like anyone who gets cancer. It's not something you hope for or expect. So, but that led me to this whole convoluted journey of getting on treatment here in New Zealand first of all, and then having to go to America for a clinical trial. Quite an expensive and crazy sort of expedition. But when I came back from all of that, which took about 18 months of that bit of my life, that little 30-second clip was 18 months of my life. But when I came back from that, I realised that there's a lot going on here in New Zealand, many of it good, but some of it actually really needs improvement. And part of it is we don't have access to some of the treatments that they have access to in the rest of the world, and that's mainstream kind of what we call standard of care treatments, just what a doctor would expect to have in their toolkit. But also some of the clinical trials for the new types of treatment that are really having incredible breakthrough technology globally. We're just not getting access to that stuff in New Zealand.
Do you feel like you're a little bit of an ambassador for New Zealand?
Oh, hopefully, yeah. I mean, not without I don't have the car with a little flag on the front.
And
but
you don't
if
have
you could organise that would be awesome.
And
one of those.
We also need to fix you up with some cheerleading clothing.
Yeah, pom-poms or whatever.
Pom-poms.
Yeah. But I'm literally the ambassador for an organisation called the Mulligan Institute, which is a cancer research institute in Wellington. So that's part of that ambassadorial role. So pushing, because a lot of Kiwis don't realise that we haven't got this stuff. We have got a great role in country. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm super lucky that in my day job, we see all these incredible things from New Zealand. We get to talk about these amazing things to the rest of the world. However, the downside of having a small economy and only 5 million people is we can't afford some of the things that we really should have. Or we're making decisions that mean we can't afford them. That's probably a different, more controversial point. So that means that, when there is an opportunity to advocate for, let's try and be the best in the world at something like cancer therapies. Let's actually make sure that patients aren't having to go overseas for treatment all the time if they don't need to. I think that's really important. So I spend quite a bit of time, advocating for
doing that.
Yeah.
And are you making headway?
I think we are. I mean, there's still a little way to go. I mean, healthcare is a massive subject. The bit I've been spending most of my time in is in cancer therapy, in particular for blood cancers. And we are making some headway there. Basically, there's a clinical trial. The same trial I went to Boston University. I was at Harvard Medical School's teaching hospital 7 years ago. And that was basically the only choice I had back then, and spent a lot of money to do there. We've now got that same treatment here in New Zealand through the Mulligan Institute in Wellington. But only under clinical trial at the moment. But that's an amazing step forward, because there was huge hurdles to get through. So I think there's progress being made. That clinical trial will finish in about a year, and that will allow us then to advocate for this to become the standard treatment. Assuming that the trial results are good, which I think they will be, then this should become the standard of care.
I hear the word resilience a lot these days. You know exactly what that is.
Yeah.
And my audience are practical business owners and founders and leaders, and those who are interested in business and in Kiwi life. And how can they be resilient? Can you teach us something about resilience? Can you give us a masterclass?
No pressure. In a minute and a half.
Oh no, this is not radio. This is podcast. So you've got some time.
25 minutes. Okay,
this is like open form.
There's a few things to remember. I guess if you sort of think about let's try and break it down to 3 or 4 points. First of all, understand what resilience is. Resilience does not mean ignoring problems or trying to be staunch or macho or anything like that. Resilience is actually acknowledging that things will have an impact on you, emotionally, mentally, physically, whatever it might be, but you will likely recover. So that's the first step. So, and in fact, all the science tells you this, that pretty much if anything that happens in your life, you usually recover back to a certain set point. Like it's incredible actually what happens. Whether you win lotto or you have a huge tragedy, a period of time later, you'll be back to similar to where you started. So that's resilience really, is actually the idea of bouncing back from something, not just ignoring it. So allow yourself to have a little cry. Allow yourself to feel sad. That's the first point. Second point is, while most people bounce back to a similar point, and that point is in part determined by your genetics and your, just the luck of the draw, the gene pool, you actually can do things that increase your kind of long-term set point, if you like. If you think about like a thermostat, you can create practices that will actually build your long-term, I guess, mental health, whatever it might be. And those things are quite simple. And really today, and that's probably the third point, today that stuff is actually quite well documented.
What do you do? What's your...
Positive, lots of positive thinking, And it sounds woo-woo, by the way. Okay, so one of the things I've just
positive
put out
thinking,
there, there's a lot of this sort of stuff sounds like, hokum, and, for hundreds of years we've been talking about this stuff. But actually now the science tells us this stuff is real. It works.
Right.
Appreciation and gratitude makes a big difference. Savouring opportunities, really taking time to be in the moment. Mindfulness is the trendy phrase. It really does work. Setting intention. So I start the day always thinking, what is the best thing that's going to happen to me this day? Given what the circumstances are, how I feel, what's going on in my life, what's the best possible outcome? And often that happens. In fact, more than often it happens.
Really? What happens? What do you do?
Yeah, just like, because, but the reason is it's not like there's no magic. There's no magic here.
I wish it was.
But it allows you to sort of notice the opportunities when they appear, rather than, as I say, the universe is not going to suddenly create for you $1 million sitting on a pile on the table, but it will allow you to notice the things that are actually going to lead to something that you would like. There's a great story about this I'll quickly tell you.
Please do. I love it.
And it's a true story. When I was advertising, when I was applying for a new job once at Microsoft, and it was a promotion.
It's still considered advertising.
Yeah, and you're advertising yourself. But I went into this job interview, and the person said to me, when you're driving to the airport and you're running late, do the traffic lights go red or green? And it's a great question to ask someone, because you think about it and you go, well, and I answered honestly, I said they go green. I've never missed a flight. If I'm going to the airport and I'm running late, the plane will also be late, or I'll find a fast way around, or whatever. I've never missed a flight. And anyway, I got the job. And and it was the only question they asked in that job interview, which was amazing. But what's amazing about it is that actually it's an important lesson, because what the person was asking me was not really, did the traffic lights go green or red? He was just trying to understand how I think. He was saying, how do you perceive the world? Are you the sort of person that when you see things that you can't do, you stop when you're blocked and it's not your fault, you're a victim? Or are you the sort of person that says, no, the traffic lights are green, I'll find a way, there must be a pathway? And that's a really powerful way to put yourself in this position of being in control. So for me, that's always been one thing, is like, put yourself in that position of, are you being a victim right now? Oh, it's not my fault, I can't do it, it's too hard, I don't feel good. Or are you actually saying, what can I do? Like, what is possible? And when you do that, and then going back to your question, the original question about how do you build resilience, your default mindset then is positivity and looking for things that are possible. And I just think that's the best way to live,
Yep.
So again,
yep.
You don't have to always be like that, but realise that you will bounce back to being positive. Developing these practices actually do make a big difference, and there's real science behind it now that says that this stuff really works.
There's a real cool, light and breezy energy about you, David, and I want to understand where that comes from.
Wow, that's out of the blue. It's partly my family history, I suppose. My parents are Irish. Irish people are naturally light and breezy. Apart from when they're singing songs about the Troubles and all that sort of stuff. But I've developed more and more and more over the years a confidence in my own, I guess, approach and personality. And this is sort of the practices that I was talking about earlier.
It kind of fits together with what you're talking about earlier.
Yeah, because imagine it's a thought experiment. But if you're the sort of person, or if you constantly say to yourself, "Oh, it's going to rain. Things are tough. It's cold. It's horrible. I feel bad." If you did that for weeks and days and months and years, after a while, that would become your default. Whereas actually, if you're putting yourself, and initially it's starting the work of practicing to do this, but after a while it becomes a habit. If you're putting yourself in that position of going, "Oh, actually it's pretty good. I can find things. It's quite fun. I'm enjoying this. And this is a good person to talk to, and we're having a nice chat," then you're constantly,
inviting good stuff into your life.
Yeah.
And this is what you practice daily.
I do, yeah.
And
not always consciously, by the way.
Yeah.
Sometimes consciously. Sometimes you go, right, I really have to dig deep here. But most of the time it's natural.
Can I ask you, when you feel down about something, there's no pun intended here. When you feel down about something, do you stay in it for a while, or do you bounce quickly off it? For the one listening, maybe someone is going through like a challenge in their business, like sales stump, or just not able to understand something about their business, whatever. And they're really in a tough spot. How do they have that mindset shift to, I don't know, so what actually works?
Oh, this is a great question, because this goes back to this kind of point I was making about resilience being not resistance. So it's not pushing away problems, and it's not pretending problems don't occur. So sometimes when a problem occurs, you feel a bit crap, and you're allowed to. And you're allowed to stay there for a little while if you want to. I remember talking to one of my bosses once, I was like in my 30s or whatever, and I went to his office and something hadn't gone wrong, and I said, it's got to blah, 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 and I was complaining, and he said, I just want to stop you there. Do you want me to do something, or are you just having a recreational moan? And I went, I'm probably having a recreational moan. And he went, cool, okay, just as long as we both know, take a few minutes and let's do that. And then when you're finished, we'll get on to fixing the problem. And it's like, wow, that's really true. So sometimes you go, I've had a bad day, or the sales results aren't doing what I need, or business is really tough at the moment. Allow yourself some time to go, it's shit, and I'm not enjoying this, and this is hard. But don't stay there, because that's not going to help you. But I also find, so that's my advice. The other thing is, when people say, "Oh, cheer up," don't cheer up. Allow yourself to be sad. Being sad is part of being human.
Is it part of the process?
Yeah, but actually know that you're going to get through it, and you're going to bounce back. And as I say, there's this concept of haptic adaptation, hedonic adaptation, which is the idea that we do bounce back.
What we were talking about earlier about the bouncing back.
Yeah, exactly. So it's very now proven sort of scientifically that we actually will always pretty much come back to the set point that we had from the beginning. So if you've had a bad day, allow yourself to have a bad day. Talk to your partner about it. Have a little time to yourself. But what's not healthy is sort of fermenting
going
on that,
through it,
going over and over and over, and chewing it over so much that you can't find a way back.
So if someone is going to be doing that right now, going to sit in it, moan about it, have a rant, and feel sorry for about a few days, then...
A few days is a bit long.
Yeah, I know. For a business, that's too long. Maybe a few minutes, a few hours.
One of the best advice, I remember my wife and I got married, and... the priest who got married by a Catholic priest, and he said, never go to bed angry.
Yes.
And it was like, so by the time you go to bed, you've got to have recovered. So there you go.
And I think you have to recover from, challenges in life in a business.
Yeah.
And you were talking about, positive thinking like this is only a phase. This is only a season.
Yeah.
I love that phrase. This is only a season, because you know that the winter is never. It's never going to be it forever, and it's nice. It's like a little cloud that comes in. Do you go through other frameworks that you have applied to your life? You've probably taught some other people that you really swear by, and you're like, I'm going to teach those people.
Oh, there's a few. I mean, I sort of done so many coaching things over the years, and so many different ways of teaching that you come back to. A good one is GROW, which is the looking at, when you've got the GROW framework. Let me find goal, reality, options, way forward. That's what it stands for. Goals, reality, options way forward. So what that means is, okay, say you come to me and you've got a problem, or you've got a thing you're trying to solve, or you've got a life crisis or whatever. And that little framework, that little acronym just helps me or helps you to think about, okay, how might we structure a conversation to be useful for you? So goal, what is your goal with this conversation? Oh, I would like to recover my sales results. Okay, what is the reality right now? Oh, the reality is, we're really struggling for sales. 3 of our customers have left us recently. Okay, what are our options? Oh, I guess we could look for new customers. We could go back to those customers and try and win them back. We could change our products. We could change our pricing, blah, blah, blah. Okay, what is the way forward from here? Oh, let's pick that particular thing and make an action. So it's a really, really simple framework. It's kind of probably well understood. Probably lots of people rolling their eyes because it's so simple. But it's just a way when you find yourself sometimes coaching someone or someone asking you advice, or just literally right then you going, what's a framework? And I went, oh, that one jumped straight to my mind.
I love that. Yeah.
But it's so simple because you go, okay, and it puts the onus back on the individual to acknowledge their reality and then start brainstorming and thinking creatively about options, but then have an action at the end of it. The way forward piece is quite important.
I love how summer is just around the corner here in New Zealand, which means one thing, let's get out there and have some fun on the beach. Who wants that? I do. My friend Jürgen at Hibiscus Jet Ski is giving away free jet ski rides for 2. I tried it, I loved it, and I thought what a great way to get out of my comfort zone. Yep. If you want to be in to win, click the link in the description to enter. Do you see Kiwi businesses applying certain things in their lives and they are very different to other nationalities? Like, I don't know, you probably have spoken to a lot of businesses in your lifetime.
Yeah.
Do you see Kiwi businesses and Kiwi business owners and founders act differently?
Different. Yeah, yes.
Oh, think differently.
Yes. Sometimes for good, sometimes not so good.
Yeah. Tell us the good.
I mean, the great thing about New Zealand is it's a very straightforward place to start a business. Like technically, legally, operationally quite straightforward. You can start a business in half an hour with a credit card. It's also a country where small businesses are celebrated, quite rightly, because people who run small businesses are amazing. So you can get up and running quite quickly. Most Kiwis are it's kind of born or sort of bred into us that you can actually turn your hand to everything. You don't need massive formal training. If you want to run a podcast, go online and grab some mics and set up a podcast.
Yeah.
So that sort of stuff's really positive. So it's a great country for setting up things. The flip side of that, and it's sort of a great, thing I believe, which is that every strength has a shadow side, and sometimes your very strength is also your weakness. And our weakness as a country is often that scaling businesses, growing faster and bigger, and getting to international sort of quality is much harder. Partly because of the things that it makes it easier for us to start a business. So we can turn our hand to everything, which means we think we can do everything, but that stops you to grow when you get a bit bigger, because suddenly you go, I don't need a marketing department, I know how to do marketing.
Or don't need to do marketing.
I don't need to do it at all. Or in New Zealand, it's most of our sales are direct. You either sell it to a person or a business or directly into the channel that's going to sell it for you, like a supermarket. Whereas in other countries, it's much, much more complicated. You're selling through distribution and wholesale, et cetera. You have to allow different disciplines to come into a business as it grows. And that can be quite a problem and a challenge for people. And a lot of founders have the mindset of kind of product first. So they've developed their widget, their gadget, their offering, and they're pushing it out to the world. Whereas actually, as you grow, you have to think much more about your customer and your consumer and what do they need. And so some of those things that make us a great place to start and grow small businesses make it hard to grow large businesses and scale. And particularly internationally, where it's much, much more competitive. And ironically, New Zealand businesses often have to go international way before they're ready in some ways. Way before other countries, because we just don't have the domestic market.
And in terms of what you see as the, not negatives, but like challenges that they face, is that the focus on the product more than the final customer?
Can be. It can be this, not wanting to take on advice, being a bit closed.
A
bit suspicious.
Yeah.
I mean, New Zealand's, strength and weakness. One of our strengths is we've got an incredible country physically.
Yes.
A beautiful place. But actually, as someone who travels around the country a lot, I see lots of sort of little fiefdoms of, I'm not sure what they're doing in Hawke's Bay, but I'm not sure I trust them. Or, Invercargill, we'll never heard of those people. I don't know. You know, I
Wow.
wouldn't want to collaborate. Whereas if we had 5 million people living in an island like Singapore, people collaborating all the time, they're connecting, they have to. Like, you don't end up with these duplicates happening around the country, which we have here. So again, it's shadows and strengths and weaknesses. And then the other challenge is it's very hard to, often hard for New Zealand businesses to be super confident and, you know, aspirational, because there's a little bit of a knocking that happens here at times. If we know the tall poppy thing, it's got better, I think, over the years, but I still think it's there that, you know, if you put yourself out there and say, I want to set up $100 million business and I'm going to be the most successful person in the world, or yeah, we're going to have the greatest this, you get a lot of people going, oh yeah, mate, put your head in, you know, like, you know, where are you? Whereas in other countries, it's more like, go you. Now, again, it's changing, luckily, but it's changing, I think, too slowly. I would love to see more celebration of success and aspiration, and when people try really hard and it doesn't work and they fail, it's not about beating them up. It's going, wow, cool, how do we back you to go again? Now, that kind of mentality exists in other parts of the world, you know, like it's almost a badge of honor in places like Silicon Valley. If you haven't failed, you're not really considered to be credible. So, whereas in New Zealand, you have a big failure and everyone, you're written off for a while. So I think we've constantly got to be battling that sense of self-deprecation that we have as a country.
Where do you think this tall poppy syndrome is coming from? I had a feeling that I was talking to someone ages ago about the origin, but I can't remember anymore. But there is actually a real origin about this tall poppy. And
is there? Oh, gosh. I can give you my version of it. I don't know if it's the right version.
Tell me
but
your
I guess
version.
it's like I could chat GPT it and get the proper version. But I think that in New Zealand, humility is a positive attribute. Like, people admire humble people, you know, sporting heroes, the All Blacks or whatever. You know, they like it when our real heroes don't appear to put themselves in front of everyone else. And it goes back to some cultural attributes, you know, from Māori culture, from sort of Pākehā New Zealand culture, of not putting yourself forward, but allowing others to, you know, be put forward. So I think there's a saying in Māori, for example, the kumara does not sing of its own sweetness, which is a lovely phrase, and that is to be admired. You know, I admire humble people, but I admire humble, confident people. You know, I think if you've got a position and you feel aspirational, that's a wonderful thing. You should put yourself out there and say, you know, that's how I feel. So that has been, I think that's been a bit of a challenge for many businesses and people, individuals in New Zealand. Again, we're battling it. I think the more we celebrate success and failure, the better.
Do you think the tall poppy syndrome is sitting amongst the individuals, or sitting amongst the decision makers, or sitting amongst the media? Who's driving the narrative of that?
Oh, a bit of all of that. I mean, a bit of all of that self-reinforces too, actually, isn't it? There's, you know, no one individual is to blame, but you do get a little bit of the, you know, the media, for example, will pick up on a story that they find newsworthy, which is often an aspect of a bigger story that's more sensational. You know, that you often see an article where the headline, the sub-editor has written quite a controversial headline to draw you in to read the article. When you read the article, it's quite balanced, but that headline might be, you know, a little bit more in your face. So that can reinforce these sorts of things, you know. They'll pick up, and that's not just beating up on the media. That's just to say that's just kind of part of the role is to get people to read things, and that's how you do it. So we're reinforcing it ourselves.
Is there a way that we can do storytelling? Because storytelling is huge for you.
Yeah.
Is there a way that we can do storytelling that is not going to reinforce that story, the tall puppy syndrome that we have?
Yeah. Oh, I definitely. I mean, we at New Zealand Story, we basically tell positive stories about New Zealand all the time. True positive stories. We're not making them up. There's no shortage of great stories. This has always been our challenge, actually. The channel to get them out to the world is the difficult bit. But actually, if you want to find amazing business stories or amazing people stories or whatever, there are heaps of them. So and then you're looking for what is the lessons. I mean, I've written quite a few books which kind of capture stories of either New Zealand innovation, or I did a book called Silver Linings, which was all the positive things that had happened during COVID. So those stories are out there. They're amazing. There's so many of them. And then you start to go, what's the common threads between these stories? What are the attributes of the people, of the circumstance, of the communities, whatever it might be? And that's the stuff that you want to then start putting forward and saying, actually, we could all learn from this. This way of being and thinking is useful.
Quick one. Mina here. Thank you for watching this episode. I appreciate you. Thank you for all your support. One thing that you can do for me is to please hit the subscribe button below. I promise you that if you hit subscribe, I'm going to work hard to make sure that my episodes are really good, that will get better and better. So, do we have a deal? Okay, back to the episode. Do you think we are learning? Do you think Kiwis, I mean, this podcast is global, so Americans and Germans listen to this as well. And it might be very interesting to them to understand us. But the main target here is Kiwis, by Kiwis for Kiwis. So yep. I now even forgot the question.
Yeah. Do you think it's global, did you say?
No, I can't remember the question anymore.
Such a good question.
I know.
It eluded you.
It's never overload a question. Just ask it straight away.
All right. Did they teach you that at journalism school?
Yeah.
Yeah. Stop caveating your questions.
I know, right? Yeah. No, but I think I'd love to get into why you care so much about story. Obviously, NZ story. And I want to understand how it works and some of the great, glorious things that have come out of it that you're so proud of.
Well, I guess the key thing is story sounds very, I'll just get out there because I always want to say this, that story can often sound a bit sort of fluffy and frivolous and it's not proper, but actually stories are the way that human beings have transmitted information for millennia. It's only in the last few years we've had Excel spreadsheets and, Gantt charts. So actually stories are the way that we connect with people and we engage with people. And again, the science is now very clear that human beings make emotional decisions and need to be brought along emotionally, and then they retrofit data and retrofit facts to rationalise their emotional decision making. That shouldn't be a surprise, hopefully, to anyone that's read anything to do with psychology in the last few years. But it still surprises me that people don't kind of click what that means. Well, that means that telling stories, going to movies, sharing case studies, all those sorts of things are storytelling. Are a much more powerful way to shift opinion, to get people to adopt different ways of thinking or practices than just saying, well, 52% of people, do this and, 1 in 6 are this or whatever. That data type way of thinking, it's important. You should have the facts in the data. They should underpin the truth. But the stories are the way that you're going to get emotional buy-in. So that to me is the big part of it. So New Zealand Story, the organisation that we're part of, it's our whole ethos is basically tell the stories of New Zealand to draw out truths of the country that we would like the world to know based on data. We have an enormous amount of research data. We know opinions and percentages of all these sorts of attributes of us as a country, but we're not going to stay in that data space. That's just going to inform our work to tell the stories that we tell. So that's the sort of the art and the science of it. So there's a science piece, analytics, understanding where people are, how do you want to shift opinion. And then the art is actually what are the stories that are going to help create an emotional connection to New Zealand and shift their perceptions at the same time.
And I suppose for leaders and CEOs or business owners who do not understand storytelling as part of their business. Oh, yeah. And they're like, nah, that's just some fluff and I'm not interested. Obviously, you've gone through and explained.
Yeah, I mean, I always find it interesting if you're a leader of a business, you stand up in front of your 100 staff or whatever on a Monday morning. Is it what's more motivating to them, to tell them a story of how your company or product has impacted a real person and changed their life, or to say our sales numbers are 86.3% of our target and we need to be at an 82.4, You know what I mean? It's the numbers are important because that's how you measure. It's the scoreboard. But the story of the game is much more important than just the scoreboard.
And how does it work with NZ Story? I did obviously look it up and had a bit of research. Yeah. But I always want to, learn it from you, on how, from your take on how you're helping New Zealand innovation be put onto the world stage.
Yep. So we're a government entity, so we're a joint venture actually of government agencies. There's 8 different government entities that fund us. And our job is growing the perception of New Zealand. As I say, we've got a whole lot of data about what the rest of the world thinks about us, and what we're trying to do is make sure that New Zealand is not just seen as a beautiful place to visit, which it is, and we're lucky, but it's also seen as, you know, a great place to invest, a good place to send your children to get educated, a place where you might want to move to, a place where you want to buy products and services from. So there's a whole lot of reasons you want to brand the country or kind of grow the perception of the country beyond just the tourism.
Yeah.
And that's kind of our remit, is help work with all the other organisations, have a consistent brand story. I mean, the rest of the world, frankly, struggles to find New Zealand on a map. Often we're not even on the map, but they struggle to find us on the map. But at the same time, they have a very positive perception of New Zealand. So our job is to fill in the blanks. You've got a positive perception of New Zealand. You know, you love New Zealand. You love this idea of New Zealand. Here's some things you should know about us that helps you explain why that's the case. So that's what we do. So that's, you know, digital media, social media, mainstream media. It's events.
So if a business came to you saying, how can we collaborate? How does it work?
Yeah, they could jump on our website. So we can't, we're only tiny. So individual businesses we don't typically engage with, but we have a whole story toolkit on our website, full of content, full of imagery, graphics, video, B-roll.
And this has all been used. You can use that freely.
Yeah, it's all free. Yeah. It's also licensable. We have all the licensing basically. When you go there, so if you're a small business and you're trying to grow internationally, jump on our toolkit. You can download all this stuff that talks about New Zealand and intercut different imagery and footage. Yeah. It saves you having to create it. It's
or buy
much more on brand. It's high quality stuff. We also then, as they create stories, so we'll do, you know, social media posts and stories about individual companies or groups or sectors or famous Kiwis or sporting or flat white or whatever, and we put that out in the world, and then basically, you know, get shared by lots and lots of people. So creating these positive stories about New Zealand. We do a lot of data and market research, as I mentioned, so that's all published on our website. We have we show seminars quite regularly. And then we also, importantly, we manage the silver fern, the fern mark. So I'm wearing one here. Yeah. So that's the fern mark is the symbol of New Zealand globally, by far the most well-known symbol of New Zealand, much more than our flag. And we license that, so it's intellectual property held by the government that we manage on the behalf of all the Kiwis. Yeah.
Wow, and like a lot of people like to use that logo.
Yeah, lots of companies, 600 and something companies license it at the moment, and it's growing all the time. And then put it on the back of packs, you know, like so. So the brand of New Zealand is very valuable. We know this. Like, it's one of the most valuable assets we have as a country. Our reputation. When products come from New Zealand, when people come from New Zealand, there's a perception of quality, of value, you know, that people that's desirable, and so. And we know that, you know, we can test and measure that, and we help. What we're doing is helping create and maintain that. But then we also want to make sure that the companies get value from that. So if you're creating a widget from New Zealand, you want people to know it's from New Zealand, because then they'll appreciate it more, potentially pay more for it. You know, so that's what the Fern Mark does. It's a program where you can license it, you can put it on the back of your pack or on the front, whatever you want.
Very interesting.
And then it basically transmits to the world that you're from New Zealand and trustworthy. Yeah.
Fascinating. I don't think I've ever met someone who does what you do, and
there aren't any others in New Zealand. We are it for New Zealand. There are others around the world.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Other countries do this sort of idea of country branding. Yeah. But it's and it particularly is successful for small advanced economies like New Zealand. So very, very large countries, you know, your China's and America's and stuff like that. They have a brand where no one can change that really. And very small countries, tiny countries, can't do much. But us in the middle, we can go, right, we want to be really thoughtful about how we want New Zealand to show up in the world. So, you know, there's clusters like us in Ireland and Singapore and Estonia and Costa Rica and, you know, dozens of countries that are our sort of scale who can really think carefully about how they want their country to show up in the world. And, So
it is important, I suppose. You probably do a lot of work as well with Pure NZ.
Yep, well, that's tourism. So Tourism New Zealand runs a campaign called 100% Pure New Zealand. Yeah. So that's a tourism campaign. Yeah. So they put that out in the world basically purely as a way of saying, come to New Zealand and experience us. What we're trying to do in some ways is complement that, because that's really helpful to get tourists here, but it's not helpful if you're trying to get people to invest here or you know, buy a train, or well, a train. We don't sell trains, but anyway, buy something. Buy a
Maybe we
product
should
from
start
New
making
Zealand.
trains
that's our
and
problem.
sell them.
We need more trains. But yeah, so the 100% pure is sort of we complement each other.
I think we need bridges first before we need
Yeah,
trains.
that's right. Train tracks even.
We need train tracks and we need bridges. I wanted to delve into your own story about change and about, we talked about change resilience, and you were saying that you're such an advocate of health.
Yeah.
And I felt like it would have been nice to go into that deeper for people to really understand, because you have a lot of why. Like, you have a big why.
Yeah.
You're very passionate.
Yeah.
And, you wouldn't be passionate about this storytelling if you weren't. There's something deeper in you that loves story. What is that driving force that makes you want to be a storyteller and advocate for that? And then I want to get into your own personal story, that how you fought cancer, and what were you like before and how are you right now?
Yeah. Got quite a lot of stuff there.
Yeah,
okay.
I know.
And I've only got about 5 minutes left, and I'm going to have to run. I guess so. As I mentioned, I've sort of had many careers.
Yeah.
Not just jobs. You have jobs within a career, but then you sometimes switch. So I was switched from being a kind of performer, comedian, writer, actor, into running my own businesses. So small business owner and entrepreneur, to then running and working for a corporate, to then working for a government.
Yeah.
So these were career sort of shifts. And then one of those career shifts was when I was diagnosed with cancer out of the blue, like literally on my way to work, popped into the doctor because I wasn't feeling that great. And then, lo and behold, it turns out I had cancer, and I had to stop work pretty much that day and then go into this whole new thing that appeared out of nowhere. So that's quite a big, obviously quite a big thing to happen to you, particularly because it took nearly 2 years to go through all the treatments, and I had to shift completely from being my day job into doing these, being a patient, basically a full-time professional patient. No one ever paid me for it, but that shift makes you, and then when you come through that, because it was literally life-threatening. I was terminal. I had terminal cancer, so it wasn't just a trivial thing. It was, I had to go to the States to get treatment, or I would have had less than a year to live. So these are big, moments in your life where you step back and go, right, well, what am I here to do? Particularly when I got better and came back from that treatment, you think, right, well, what am I going to do now? Like, what's the best use of my time, given I now know how precious time is? And it shouldn't take us a life-threatening illness to learn these lessons in life, but it does often. And so that's that's what I do now. It's like really think about, all right, what's the impact I want to have? I've really, going back to a thing I said a lot earlier, is what's the best thing I could do happen today, or I could do today, given my circumstances? And I choose things that are in line with that. It's a quite a good way to live your life with a longer term plan of, I want to retire one day, and Catherine and I want to travel a bit and all that sort of stuff. But actually, along the way, what are the things I would like to do? And most of it is about actually having some sort of impact that helps people, because you pretty much realise that, when I was sick, there were so many people helping me, for example, that's actually one of the most important things. It's not what you accumulate. It's not about having stuff. It's actually about what good you can do in the world, and what ripple impact, how you can make the world a slightly better place than what you had.
So you would say you were definitely a different person before and after?
More intense version, I reckon. I'm not different. I haven't changed radically. I think people who know me well would say the essence is still there, but it's probably more intensified. Yeah.
And you're a bit more up,
upbeat. I know I'm
upbeat.
Jeepers, I'm bulletproof. Well, don't say that, then something will happen. But no, you know what I mean? It's like, it's reinforced this, all those things we talked about around setting intention, thinking about what you could do, putting yourself in the position of control, not a victim. All of that kind of I learned through those 2 years of being sick.
Treatment.
And I didn't necessarily consciously try and learn those lessons, but afterwards.
So you would think it was like a bit of a blessing.
Going
through it.
In a strange way. I mean, I hesitate to say that because I would hate this to happen to anyone else, and I don't want it to happen again. No. And it was awful what happened to my family and everyone around me. But when you come through that, you are going to get something out of it. That, as well as the negative things, you're going to get some really good things as well. Opportunities appear that you never had before. Ways of thinking that are probably accelerated. As I say, it sometimes takes. Sometimes you meet older people who are later in life and they're quite wise. And they've developed that often through adversities that they've had through their life. So, any opportunity to kind of use adversity to turn it into something useful, that's what we're after.
Well, it's been really lovely to have you, David, and I appreciate your time and I appreciate your wisdom and joy that you bring to this episode.
No problem.
Very different, and it's really beautiful to have that. And, there's heaps more to talk about. However, we shall end it here.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Kia ora.
Kia ora.